Okay. All right. So first of all, I want to introduce myself. I'm Jessica Balshausen. If none of y'all have ever seen me before, I work for CCR&R of Southeast Georgia. There is a camera that you are on camera for this meeting. So if you do something private, be aware that people can see you. There is also a mute button if you want to push your mute button so you can't hear your neighbor yelling at their dog or their children, or if they yell, or the lawnmower or anything outside, and that way you can mute or unmute. You can also use your space bar, so if you want to say something quickly, you can hit that space bar and then you can talk without having to come off of mute. Also too, if you look on the bottom of your screen, there's something called reaction. So if you put that reaction, you can do a thumbs up or you can do a wave. So we're going to use that wave as a as the hand raise, because it'll just be easier that way, and then that way I can see everybody's hands, and then if y'all need me, you can raise your hand, or if you need to speak, then you can raise your hand. Reminder also that I sent the handouts to your email beforehand. So when you registered on Zoom, which y'all didn't, but they will, registered on Zoom, I got your emails off of that. So I sent you all of the handouts. There are several handouts for this math training. So have those handy, whether you want to put them on your desktop, on your computer. I will share some of them on my screen, but whenever you go into group, then you will need to have those handouts ready. I always work better with paper. So if you want to copy out the handout, I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. Does anybody want to copy out the handout, or do you already have it? Okay, perfect. So you guys might want to give your providers a little bit of time just to copy, because sometimes they don't. So that way they can actually write on it as they're going through it. So to use the chat box, down on the bottom of your screen, there's a little bubble that looks like somebody's talking, and it says chat, and that's where you'll find the chat box. Normally it comes up on the side of your screen. You can chat to me, or you can chat privately to someone else. Be aware that if I take the chat box, which I will, then your private messages will come out in the copy chat. So just be aware of that. I don't want anybody to get themselves in trouble. So this training is the Math Made Easy training, and we have 3 objectives. The first objective is that participants will recognize how math play and math talk affects quality care for children. Our second objective is that participants will identify different math concepts to intentionally enhance math knowledge. And our third objective is participants will select ways to incorporate math into all centers and routines on a daily basis. So let's get started with an icebreaker. I have a poll, and I'm going to share this poll with you. And the poll says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you teaching math? And I have launched the poll. So if everybody would just pick on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable you are teaching math. Okay, and it looks like we have 100% voted. I'm going to end the polling, and I will share the results with you. So for us being TAs, we are an 8 on how comfortable we are teaching math, but there are some of us that are only at a 4 level. There's one of us that's excellent at teaching math. They're a 10. So you can see that there's a wide range of how comfortable we are with teaching math to our providers. Now, I think that if this was on a teacher level, it would be quite different probably, because, you know, we talked in our meeting that time about how probably it's the math and the kids not going in the math center is coming from just the teacher not being comfortable teaching it. So this is why we wanted to come up with this training to help those people that aren't real comfortable. So if you could, in your chat box, if you'll write why you picked, if you're comfortable doing this, write why you picked the scale number that you picked. If you picked the 6, why did you pick a 6? Or if you picked a 10, why'd you pick that 10? If you're comfortable in sharing that with us. So we've got one that's, I am somewhat comfortable teaching math, but I never liked math in school and still don't. Me either. And then I spent a lot of years homeschooling my children. We did a lot of organic math learning. That's cool. And I get uncomfortable past algebra 1. Me too. I get uncomfortable whenever I have to do my times tables. I don't even know how to do that cute little thing with your 9s that you count something that you go up and down. I can't even figure that out. No clue. So we got another one that picked 7. I can do it. Oh, wait a minute. These are going really fast. I can do it, but I don't always know I'm explaining it correctly. Yeah, that's me. Math can be found throughout the day, play and routines, math for young children. I'm good. Yeah, math can be found all throughout the day, but I'm telling you, I still have problems with math. And y'all know I'm a huge cooker. And whenever I'm following recipes and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, it looks like maybe a teaspoon. Or if it says how many cups are in a whatever, and I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, hey Siri, or hey Alexa. So, oh, look at this. I picked 10 because through assisting my granddaughters, look at that. It made it easy. So I have learned to relate math to anything. So through experience, see, and that's what we're trying to teach our providers. It's through experience that you get comfortable. I'm not a pro, but I can give examples using math in realistic situations. Sometimes gets foggy. Me too. I'm able to incorporate math because it's not hard math. All math to me is hard. All depends on the level and content that I am teaching it. Me too. If it's not 1 + 1, I'm not comfortable at all. I feel pretty comfortable sharing math activities with my providers, but I don't like math. Yeah, me too. These are all things that we go through as TAs, and I think that the teachers go through this too, of not quite knowing exactly like what level they need to teach on and so forth like that. So thanks for all those answers. So what we're going to do is I've got some math terms that I actually sent to you, but we're going to start with these math terms, which a lot of them I had to ask how to pronounce them. Some of them I don't even know what they mean. I'm not going to put that up on the scale just yet. I'm going to go over a couple of these questions. We're going to do this as a large group discussion. So I would like, whenever I read one of the words, and try to do this without looking at your definitions, okay? So I'd like for you, without looking at the words, when I read one of the words, if you can give us an example of that word, then I'd like for you to raise your hand and give us an example of that word. I'll start easy. You ready? Counting.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, good, Lenny. Tina, you got one other than 1, 2, 3?
10, 9, 8, 7.
There you go, making it a little bit harder. There you go. Good, thank you. And remember too to raise your hand, and I'll try to pick the first hand that we raise. You'll get bragging rights for having the first hand raised. That's going to be your gift. All right, you ready for the next one? Cardinality. Cardinality. I'll give you the definition. Cardinality is knowing, stating, or asking for the number of objects in a set without counting. Linda.
I think Linda has 5 cookies
Jessica has 4 cookies.
Perfect. Yes. Exactly. That is an example. Good job. You ready for the next one? Equivalence. Allison. Oh, Allison's just clapping for you. Sorry. Don't want to put anybody on the spot. Cynthia.
The same amount, 5 and 5 equal sets.
Exactly. Yes. Like I have 1 pen and Cynthia has 1 pen. Yes, exactly. And
Not
Janine.
usually.
All right. So non-equivalence. Non-equivalence.
Linda has 5 cookies, but Jessica only has 4 cookies. So Linda has more cookies than Jessica, and they both need to share with the rest of us.
Because Jessica's not eating cookies right now anyway. Yes, that is it. Now, see, I actually had to look down at my page to be able to see if she was even right, because I don't even know. I could barely, was that the one? No, that was not the one I couldn't pronounce. That was one of the ones I could. All right, number symbols. Remember to raise your hand so I can see your hand raised if you want to do it. Number symbols. Letty. 3, there, she wrote it down. 3 on your fingers. Great example. Yes. Janine, you got another example of that one? Absolutely. Yes. Doing your dots. Yes, yes, and yes. That's like that intentional training, where you take the note cards and you can write those things on the back, and that shows the number symbols. Absolutely. And there's the 3 again beside of the dots. Yes. Absolutely. All right. Are you ready for the next one? Ready? Conventional nominatives.
Today is July the 24th of 2020.
That is correct. Yes, absolutely. Good example. Anybody else have another example of that one? Janine.
Can you say that one again?
Yeah. Why? Because you want to listen to me say it wrong?
No, I didn't hear it.
Oh,
Anybody? I'm sorry.
did you hear her example, or did you hear the what it was called? Okay, so it is called conventional nominative, and the example was today is July the 24th of 2020. That nominatives really set me off, and I had to ask several people how to say that word because I couldn't say that. All right, next one, and remember to raise your hand. You ready? We only got 3 more left. Ordering. Ordering. Janine.
First, second, third.
Yes.
First, today, tomorrow, yesterday.
Absolutely. Yes. Linda, you got another one?
1 comes before 2. Would that not count?
Yes. Yes, it would. Absolutely. It sure would. Yes.
Check it now. Oh,
Kathy.
first, second, and third.
First, second, and third. Yes. In line. You're standing in line to go outside. You're first, you're second, you're third. Or first we get water. Second, we ladder up. Third, we rinse. Yes, absolutely. All right. Next one is calculation. Allison.
If you have 5 cookies and I give you 1 cookie, then you would have 6 cookies.
Yes, calculation. Absolutely. Yes. Place holding. Place holding. Linda Reed. You're on mute.
If
Okay.
you have 10, 0 is in the tens place. I don't know, maybe I'm thinking that wrong. Like say if you're doing numbers.
Place values such as 1. See, I have to read it also myself. This is not 7, 2. It's 7. Yes. So instead of having, like if you have 3, 4, 5, then you want the children to be able to read that 345 instead of 3, 4, 5. So yes, like 7, you don't want to read it 7, 2. You want to say 72. So you want to teach them what place it is. Like the 7 is in the 10s, and the 2 is in the 1s. Yes, absolutely. All right.
Most of us learned it as place value. So
Oh,
if you think of it as
yes.
place value, then
Yeah, you're correct. That is how I remember reading that. All right. So how was that for y'all? Hard? Weird?
Mhm.
I
So
like it.
Yeah.
so this way you do have it to use with our providers, and of course our providers can use this with the children, because this was actually something that our zone found on the internet. We found the different words for it, and then Cynthia made this cool little handout for it, and she actually put the references where we found it. So in your spare time, which we all have, if y'all want to go into, y'all can actually look up the references of this, and it was a pretty cool website that we had found. Okay, so in just a bit, we are going to talk about a math sheet, and I'm going to put it up on the page. But the handout, if you've got the handouts, the handout is Math Talk. So we're going to go over the page, and in just a minute, after we talk about the page or part of the page, we are going to break out into small groups. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, can everybody see the Math Talk?
Mhm.
You can just nod your head for me. Okay, great. So if we see here that Math Talk, all day long in daily events. And when we say the word daily events consist of play times, large and small group times, transitions, and routines. So because I can't see everybody right now, someone yell out an example of a playtime.
Free play.
Free play, absolutely, yes. Someone yell out an example of large group time.
Outside, a gross motor.
Gross motor could be a large group time if you're doing a teacher directed game, absolutely. How about small group?
Music and movement.
Music and
Sorry.
movement, yes, is a large group time, absolutely, good one. How about a small group time?
Art, maybe?
Art could be, yes. So whenever you get those paints out, you want to sit with those 3 kids at the art table for a small group time. Yes.
A food experience.
Food, yes, maybe trying different food, or even sitting at the small tables with the children whenever they're eating could be small group time. Cynthia, did you have another one?
Planned activity.
What activity?
Planned math activity.
Yes, a planned math activity, since we're talking about math. All right, so who can give me an example of a transition? There's millions of those a day.
Lunchtime.
Lunchtime.
Diapering.
Diapering.
Large group to free play.
Large group to free play.
Going outdoors.
Yeah.
Going outside.
Mhm.
Coming back in.
Lining
Coming
up.
back in. Lining up. Yes. And who can give me an example of routine?
And washing.
Hand washing. Yes.
Diaper changing.
Bathroom. Diaper changing.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Getting their cots out to go down. That's a routine. All right. So using this sheet right here and using the math words where we see 5 more minutes, or first we get our coats, second we go outside, third we blah, blah, blah. Please sit at the square table, and I would like for you to sit at the round table. How many blocks you stacked. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I'm going to put you in groups. And when you're in your breakout groups, I would like for you to use this sheet to match the phrases with an activity or a routine that teachers do in their classroom. Keep in mind, and if you want to come up with more, more of the words, more of the talk, please come up with your own for the different routines and activities. Afterwards, we are going to give each small group a chance to talk in the large group to share 2 activities that your group came up with. Okay? Sound good? Everybody get that? All right. So I'm going to give me a second. I'm gonna put you all in breakout rooms. My math is not good, so I have to use my calculator on my phone. Yeah. I don't know how to do it. Okay. All right, I'm gonna put you into groups. You guys will have, you guys are going to have 15 minutes in your breakout room. Janine, did you see your breakout room?
Jessica,
Yes, ma'am.
can I make a request?
Okay.
The font on the worksheet, I don't know if it's gonna print out like that, but I had a difficult time seeing it, reading it. It has like a glare or a glow. And I wasn't the only one. And I do have my glasses and it looked the same
Okay.
for them.
Did it look like this when you printed it out, Letty?
I didn't print it out, but on the camera, it does look, on the computer, it does look very, like a glow to it.
Okay.
So if you're gonna use it for the, to show it to while you're doing your training, I
Yes.
think to change the font.
Okay. Thank you. Reminder also, don't forget to type in your Georgia PDS account number, not as a trainer, but just as a provider. Just your Georgia PDS number. I have, just need 2 more of them. All right, I think we have everyone back from our small group. So who would like to share from the first group? Sharing 2 ideas with us with using this sheet.
I always forget what group I was in. Were we group 1?
I think
2? We were 2. Oh.
group 1. Letty, do you want to do it? Or want me to do
I
it?
think I was group 1, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Letty, you were in group 1. Yes.
Okay. What was the question again? Sorry.
So we are using this math sheet and we were matching the phrases with an activity or routine that you do in a classroom. So we're just giving 2 examples from your group that y'all came up with.
Do you want me to go?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we did one of the ones we talked about was the 5 more minutes. Obviously a transition, 5 more minutes until lunch is over, 5 more minutes and we'll go outside. But we also had like an activity. So if you're in dramatic play, 5 more minutes until the cake is done, or 5 more minutes, and using that in dramatic play. And then the other one we talked about was who is here today and who is absent. And so Letty shared, like with her large group, they used to count who all was there and they'd write the number on the board. And then she'd have like a stick figure for a boy and a stick figure for a girl. And they would tally up how many boys were there and how many girls were there, and then write those numbers on the board. But we also discussed, like, if you didn't want to do boy girl, you could let the children give you ideas. So like who's wearing shorts, who's wearing pants, who's wearing flip-flops, who's wearing tennis shoes. So you could come up with different things and still be able to tally how many children have this versus this, and even connecting it to your theme. So if you're talking about transportation, who came by bus, who came by car, who walked. You could tally that up and kind of all connect that back to who's here and who isn't. And then also as a transition, Jennifer mentioned, you know, when you come back in from outside, who's here, making sure we have everybody. And if we have anybody absent, we got to find them. So, but counting up, you know, do we have all of our people now that we've come back inside? So lots of different ways that you can count up who's here and who's absent.
Yeah, those are great ideas. And whoever was your scribe, if you would like to post those in the chat, and then we can actually share them together, if y'all wouldn't mind doing that,
Nope,
that would be
not at
great.
all.
Thank you very much for sharing. How about room 2? It was Tina, Linda, and Shelley.
Can I share my screen, please?
Sure.
Okay. This is just how we started doing it. Just we had this pulled up and we were able to type in it and we started like writing down activities. But we also did highlighted that one would just share as who is here today and who is absent. That you could do it during meal times also, like while we're sitting around seeing like, oh no, who are we missing today, you know? And also during transitions or a group time, whole group activity. And then we highlighted, this is the number 4. You have 4 dots on your paper. That could be during art. That could happen during free play. You can have it as a small group activity, or you could have it like, you could relate it to transitioning center to center if you had center signs. So this is how we kind of were documenting ours, and we were skipping around. We didn't really go in order, but.
That's cool. Good. Thank you very much. Those are awesome. Will you type a couple of those into the chat?
Yes.
So for group 3, we had Kathy, Cynthia, and Becky.
That would be us. We did the same thing. So we just filled them in. But the number is 78 degrees on the thermometer. That could happen outdoor in the science area or in the math center, depending on where you have your thermometer. And then we really like the ones at the bottom because we felt that gave us a way to be able to incorporate math with the smaller children, which we don't see a lot of. So you have 5 toes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could do that at tummy time with individual babies or diapering, depending on how they're dressed when we're diapering them.
That's a good idea. Very, very cool. Will you write that in the chat? Thank you. So then we have room 4, and we've got Janine and Mandy and Sheila.
So we did the, this number is 78 degrees on the thermometer as well. And we thought maybe we could do that as you're transitioning outside. Maybe the thermometer's right by the door. And you notice every day what the weather is when you get outside and talk about what the temperature is as you're transitioning. And then we also did, can you put all the red together, all the blue together, and all the yellow together? We said this could be done during like a small group activity, a math activity, maybe large group time all together, or during playtime with fine motor toys or the block area, or really any play area that you're in where there's things that are colored. So.
Very nice. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. Can you write a couple of those in the chat area too? I think also on this for our providers, I think I'll start this by saying that they could write on that sheet and then they could share their screen, because I think that was a really good idea. So that was a good visual. Okay, so I'm writing myself notes on here. So next we've got another small group activity, and I sent you a handout that was called Math Throughout the Day, and I will share that on my screen so you can see what it looks like. So this was the Math Throughout the Day. It's rather long, but it's got some awesome stuff in there. So whether you have this on your computer or you have it beside of you. Now this gets kind of tricky. So let me also try to explain this here. As well as this handout, you will also need the next handout, and I will share that also. That is called math planning. And so I'm going to share that one with you too. And that one looks like this. So in our breakout groups, we want to use this long handout called Math Throughout the Day to complete the handout number 4. Now you guys are only going to get about 20 minutes of doing this on how you would plan to incorporate math into your activity areas. So it's okay if you do not finish this. You can actually finish it at another time, and you can work on it and get it ready for your classroom at another time. So don't worry if you don't finish it. This can just be the start of it. So we're going to use the Math Throughout the Day handout, and then we're going to use this math planning handout, and we are going to plan on how to incorporate math in all activity areas, such as in our routines, we could write during our routines that we were going to, when the kids were lining up to go outside, we could talk about first, second, third, or first, last. So that would be an example during our routines. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you back into groups again. Not the same group. It'll put you into different groups. And I'm going to give you about 20 minutes for this activity. Make sure that when you come back, you have a spokesperson to share your information with the large group. So we're going to have 20 minutes to do this. And are there any questions so far?
Jessica, I put the instructions as you were saying them into the chat box if anybody needs to refer back to them while they're in their small group.
Thank you. And I'm actually taking that and then putting it on the instructions on, I put it with the instructions on how to do this. So I'm taking it and copying and pasting it into my instructions. Okay, I am going to put you in breakout rooms right now. Go to your breakout room. Okay, share your screen. Eleven ten. Coming back at 11:10. Mm-mm. Okay, baby. Use my. Hey, crap, that's not going to be long enough at all. Hmm.
Hey, we're back first.
You are.
And we got it all completed.
Yay. Hey, Mandy and Jennifer, do y'all have your Georgia PDS numbers?
Oh, I can think about me putting mine in. Mine's 67311.
6 something, 64 something. Hold on.
Okay, I'm looking at
All right, looks like we have everybody back.
Jessica,
Um,
462.
6462?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, what's up?
So now is the time that I would again say, I will need your full name in Georgia PDS. I will need the center that you work for, the full correct name of the center that you work for, and your Georgia PDS number. And if you have not done so already, type it into the chat box for me. You can either send it to me privately, you can send it to everyone, or you can send it to the co-host if I have a co-host. So,
and why do you have a co-host?
do what?
Why do you not have a co-host? Your zone failed you.
Well, I don't
I've
know.
been trying to be one on the fly.
I did ask Mandy if she would take down all the Georgia PS numbers, so but I did get those written down while y'all were in the group. That's a plus. Okay. So now is the time where I would tell them, don't forget, if I do not have your Georgia PDS numbers by the end of the training in the chat box, I cannot give you credit for this. So you want to make sure that you tell them that and tell them, you know, we want to make sure that you do get the 2 hours of credit, go completely onto your Georgia PDS account. So when you do log in there, it may take a little bit, but you will see that you'll get credit for this class. So this is where I would tell them this. Also too, if you're kind of running early like we were today, because really honestly, we should have had a little more talk through the hard words, and we should have had a little more talk. I feel like I should have called on more people instead of just calling on one person, because that would have been more good examples. So keep that in mind whenever you're doing this, and then that would fill up some time. So if you are running kind of early, then now is a good time to give like a 5-minute break. So let's go ahead and do that 5-minute break before we come back to the large group and go over your awesome ideas for the planning. And because we'll take 20 minutes for each group to do that. So let's go ahead and take that 5-minute break starting at 11:14. So we'll come back at 11:19. Okay. See y'all in just a minute.
Jessica, is this the last activity?
It is, we still have to do a, putting something into the chat box, but yes, this is the last activity.
Oh, a share back.
Yeah, we gotta do the group activity, the sharing of the math planning, and then we'll do I'll go over the objectives, and then we do something in the chat or have them talk out loud.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we do need more sharing at the beginning.
We do, absolutely. And there could have been sharing at the beginning, but with this being the first time, I got kind of antsy about it. So
Yeah.
there could be a whole lot more sharing in the beginning than there was.
That's why we're doing a dry run.
Yep. Because I think everybody was enjoying the math concepts because, you know, they're weird. So
yeah. Yeah. You might could like use the whiteboard or something for that activity.
Oh, good idea.
Participants outside of us would know how to use the whiteboard though.
Yeah, but I could explain the whiteboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can save it and email it back. Or you can use the whiteboard. Have them call out and you type it on the whiteboard. and then you can send it to folks after the training. Well,
That might not.
your co-host could be your typist.
Yes, okay.
That way, that would give them the responses afterward.
I also am going to make a sheet to put up on the screen of the 3 objectives, so it'll actually come up so I can share that on my screen.
Oh yeah, instead of just having to read it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to make a little handout that's going to go with it that they just put the 3 objectives up on the screen.
Hey,
Hey.
I think that when you have that conversation at the beginning of the training, that the participants might not be as fast as we were. We were all like,
Yeah. Yeah, y'all were fast. I think that's why we need to say that throughout the entire thing of saying, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. All right, it is time to come back. All right, welcome back. I also, while we were on our break, I sent everybody the email of the evaluation sheet. So if you'd like to sign the evaluation sheet and send it back to me, that would be great. And just have them back to me by the end of day, if you can do that. not, I mean, of course, we don't need those evaluation sheets, but if, I mean, it's always good if you do get some of them. So I did send some of those if anybody wants to fill that out. All right, so we're back to our large group by using the math throughout the day sheet that Shelley and Mandy graciously made, and they did a great job. And using the math planning sheet, which Letty made, and she did a great job. So we're back to using these two sheets to come together as a large group, and then our small groups will explain how you are going to have some math planning in your classroom. So if we can hear from group one, which was Allison, Cindy, Janine, and Shelley.
Do you want me to talk? Okay. All right. I'll do it then. So this is our math planning. We are preschool, and we decided to go with a theme that helps us think. So our theme was turtles. So Jessica, you want me to go through like all of it? Or just hit highlights? You're on mute.
Look at me. Whatever you're most comfortable with. It looks fantastic. So whatever you want to go over is good.
Okay. All right. So with routines, we went with pretty much general routines, counting at mealtime, so we know how many plates and then cups, napkins we need, counting to 20 when we wash our hands, giving a 5-minute warning. And then for our transition, we wanted to have the children count how many steps it would take if we walk slowly like a turtle. So getting some math in that transition. Blocks, just some question starters. How many blocks did it take for you to build whatever they built? How many blocks do you need to build? So if they have a plan, how many blocks they need. And then also talking about shapes. So how, what shape blocks we have, what shapes we can create with the blocks that we have. You'll see shapes is a big theme throughout because we talked about turtle shells and how turtle shells have different shapes on them. So you could relate that to a lot of your talk throughout talking about shapes. You could relate that to everything. So when you're making a shape in the block area, you could relate that back to, oh, just like our turtle shell had that shape, or something like that. In dramatic play, we were going to have a recipe for turtle soup. And they could also come up with their own recipe for turtle soup. They could decide what they have in that and how much they need of each ingredient. And then we'd have measuring cups, measuring spoons, different size bowls. So they could decide if they want a small bowl of soup, a large bowl of soup, and then there would be a price. So obviously the larger bowl would cost more, a smaller bowl would cost less. So just helping them think about, that and those sizes, which is a very important life skill. When you go order food, you want to know, do I want to pay more for more or less for less? So life skill there. Math, counting turtles, sorting turtles, turtle equivalents and calculation activities, and teaching the children how to say those words. So getting that math language in there as well. Music and movement, moving slow, moving fast. Doing some different like yoga things where they're coming into their shell and going out of their shell, and using kind of counting to bring them down, bring them out. So using all of that. Books, we were going to use the Tucker the Turtle book and talk about those calming techniques he uses. And a lot of times with that, there's counting. So that would bring in that. And then, of course, just reading about different turtles, and you could ask how many different turtles did we see in this book. Fine motor, having pictures of turtle shells and having the geo blocks for them to be able to recreate or create their own turtle shell. So kind of matching those shapes that they see in different turtle shells. In the science sensory area, we were going to talk or have sequence cards of the life cycle of a turtle, using those cardinal numbers, so first, second, third, and then having either a live turtle if you can, Or Cindy even said that she had a fake turtle in her science area for 3 weeks, and the kids never realized they were feeding a fake turtle the whole time and
Oh, that's
had no
funny.
idea. But they observed it, they talked about it, they fed it. They didn't know it was fake until a kid stuck their finger in there and it didn't bite. So, I mean, you could potentially do that still, but having a list of like in order of who feeds, who does what for the turtle, and observe that turtle. In the sand and water play area for the water table, we do turtles in the pond. How many turtles do you have? In the sand table, have turtle eggs buried in the sand, and they would have a timer set to see how many eggs they could dig out, and then we find out how many turtle eggs they found, or how many turtle eggs the turtle laid.
Yeah.
And then in art, we talked about just adding to their free art. So just still having those free art materials available, but just adding to it so that they could recreate or create anything that's come to them as we've talked about turtles. So we had add paper bowls to represent the shell of a turtle. So they'd have like that 3D art opportunity. Add different shapes so that they could put that on a piece of paper or on their paper bowl, and they could be textured and different colors that we would see on turtle shells. And then you could talk to them like, what shapes did you use? How many shapes did you use? And connect all that back to what they've created.
That's excellent. I love that. Can you send that to me?
Yes, I will.
That's really cute. So at this time, I would actually encourage participants, if you have a phone with a camera, it'd be great for you to take a picture of this. And I guess depending on how many participants I had also, then I could actually say, hey, if you send this to me, then I'll send it out to everybody if y'all were okay with that. So maybe that would be an option too, depending. I mean, of course, we've got 50 people. We might want to think about that, but y'all can do what you want. That's great. Thank you very much, group 1. So group 2 has Tina, Jennifer, and Mandy. Y'all want to share?
Yeah. Well, we didn't write ours. We wrote ours out on our paper. But for the routines, we talked about counting washing hands, counting toes or their fingers while changing diapers, count going outside to make sure we've got everybody, and then count coming back inside to make sure we've got everybody. Blocks, we talked about measuring which tower is taller, which one is smaller. Talked about the shapes of the blocks. You could have rectangles, you could have squares, you could have different shapes. And then we talked about the weight of the blocks, having some scales that you could weigh blocks and see which one was heavier. Music and movement, we talked about counting the beats in the rhythm. You could use rhythm sticks or something like that, any type of instrument to keep the beat and count the beats. We talked about when we sang 5 Little Monkeys, we could put up 5 fingers, and then as they fall, that your fingers fall too. And then we talked about toe touches, doing some yoga, and you go down and bend down and you count how long you're down, and then when you come back up. In science, we talked about sorting. You could sort the different size shells if you had different size shells. Measuring liquids. We talked about the first, second, and third of the life cycle. It could be a butterfly, whatever. And then we talked about weight, measuring, you could measure shells against pine cones, whatever you had in your science center that you could just see the difference in. In dramatic play, we talked about the first, second, and third with baking a cake, using that recipe, measuring that out. And then we talked about having the cash register in the dramatic play. You've got money in there, so you can talk about the $1 bill, the $5 bill, the $10 bill. And then we talked about we could play like we were going to the doctor and the baby's going to get weighed. You could weigh the baby. In books, we had fun in this one. We said we can tell, we could count how many pages the book had and how many pages is missing. And then we could sort the books. And then we could count objects in the book. As you were reading the book, you could count the objects, like how many trees do you see in the book? Sand and water, we talked about measuring. We talked about absorbing also. If you poured water into the sand, how long do you think it would take for it to absorb? We talked about sink and float, where you could make a chart. This items was, you might have 5 items that, they sank, and then you have 7 items that floated. Which one was more? And make a chart with that. Math, we talked about measuring objects with the tape. You have the measuring tape that you usually have in the math area. Shape sorters that you could do small activities with. Fine motor, we talked about puzzles and Legos and stacking Legos. Like you might have 3 Legos that are green, 5 Legos that are red, and then 6 Legos that is blue. And then you do a comparison of the towers. You can also make 3D shapes with items in the math area. In art, we talked about the steps in painting. First, you're going to put on your smock. Second, you're going to pick up your paintbrush. Third, you're going to dip it into the paint. We also talked about counting the objects that they drew. Say they drew their family. Well, how many people are in your family? You could count the family. And then you could also count how many colors of paint that they were offered and how many brushes are we going to need to go in all the cups for the paint.
Those are excellent ideas. That's awesome. Thank you, group 2. I also encourage you as other teachers, it's great whenever we learn from each other. So take notes on all these cool ideas as teachers. So we've got 2 more groups. We've got group 3 next, which is Letty, Linda, and Rebecca, or Becky, sorry. I always read your name as Rebecca, and then I'm like, Becky. Would y'all like to share?
Rebecca, you want to share? I have it right up.
I can. So we did what the first group did, and we went with a theme, and our theme was back to school, getting, to know our school community. So we tried to plan everything around those first weeks of school activities. So under routines, it's introducing the picture schedule, talking about the calendar, how many children are here today, how many children are absent. So comparing those numbers. Word and picture instructions for things with both cardinal and ordinal numbers. Washing hands, how many seconds to do that, and other to-do items. Under blocks, and really under all of the activity areas, we talked about how many children are allowed to play here signs and having the printed number there along with the dots, along with the words. Putting the shapes of the blocks on the bookcases and teaching the children how to match the shapes to the pictures that they see and being able to name the shapes, knowing what the shape is called, so that everything will fit in there. For dramatic play, we talked about when you're playing, you can point out the size of the clothing, teaching them how to look and know that clothes come in different sizes. The prices of things on the menus, and pointing out the numbers on the materials. We talked a lot about during this first weeks of school that you're teaching the children how to play with the materials. So this is all part of teaching them how to play with these things. Music and movement. We talked about taking the cubes, the activity cubes, and having number songs on it so they could roll it and decide what number song to sing. Doing a lot of counting songs and rhymes, talking about positional movement, high, low, medium, middle, those sorts of things, top, bottom. Also dancing, marching to the beat, counting the beats, musical chairs, talking about there's more people than chairs. For science and sensory, again, teaching the children how to use the materials, and in doing so, teaching them about volume and weight, full, not full, heavy, light, sink, float, those sorts of concepts. For books, obviously stocking the book area with math books and counting books and pointing those out to the children when you're teaching them how to play in the book area. Sand and water, again, a lot of the same things with science and sensory, volume, weight, heavy, light, using a timer to talk about how long they can play in there, having a wait list. When you're finished, who's next, who's first, putting your name at the end of the line, those sorts of things. Talking about how many smaller things it takes to fill larger things. For fine motor, we talked about having enough chairs versus children at a table where children can play with fine motor. That would also be at art, how many children can be at this easel that clearly fits one child and one child. What else? Where else did we say? I think that about covered it for the things that we covered. It's all the math that's going to come up naturally when you're teaching them how to use the materials. Obviously with art, when we're teaching them painting, we're going to teach them how to put just a little bit instead of a lot of paint on the brush and things like that.
And for art, you can also add the primary colors and what does the word primary mean,
Secondary.
and then the secondary and what does that means and how to make those secondary colors. So, and intentionally only add primary colors. But I want green. Well, let's make green. That's called a secondary color. And then make it yourself.
That's a good idea.
And since it's the beginning of the school year, you know, a lot of that is going to have to be on just the basic routines on how the children are part of that community and how they're going to be using those materials. And yeah.
That's a good idea. I love the size of clothing too. That is awesome. I've never even thought about doing that. And I've never thought about the primary colors and the secondary colors either. That's awesome. And again,
the clothing size was all Linda Reed. I got to give her the credit for that. Because I was like, that's genius.
That is a genius idea. It really is. So I'm loving all these examples that y'all are giving me. So even if you wrote it down on your sheets, please send me these because, I mean, gosh, I'm getting ideas even for like use as a TA. And I know that you all have great ideas because that's why you have this job, obviously. But these ideas that y'all are coming up with are excellent. I would love to use them. So even if you wrote on it, Tina, just take a picture of it or whatever, or send it to me because I'm loving these things. So we've got one more room left, and we've got breakout room 4, and it was Kathy, Cynthia, and Sheila. Do y'all want to share from your group?
Yes, ma'am. Cynthia, can you share the stream?
I've never used Zoom before. It's coming. Oh, Jesus. It's Friday. It's Friday.
Take your time, hon. Take your time.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, our math activity was pointing out different sizes of food and fractions and using descriptive words about shapes in the environment. So, and for blocks, we compare the block sizes, the links, the shapes, the colors. In dramatic play, we use numbers in cooking, first, second, third, recipe books, measuring cups, cash registers, sorting items by color, talking about menus. And I was sitting there thinking about like the calories, how many calories you might find in this meal at McDonald's on the kids menu versus adult. Math counts, bringing attention to objects, counting to 10 in sign language, asking children to point out items less or more. Music, the ants go marching line by one, hickory dickory dock, 5 little monkeys jumping on a bed, and the speckled frog. Books, comparing the books by sizes, using number books, introducing the children to the tallying and voting process by having the children we have a set of book selection, they vote on the book, and whichever book has the most numbers, that'll be the highlight book for the next week. Sorting by sizes, games, activities, matching game, science, measuring plants, measuring the items that go in the plants, the sink and flow activity, where you actually take and watch each children have each child write each child's name down right in front of them. And you'll let them see the items first, and you'll talk about estimation, and you're going to guess a theory, and they'll take, each child will have a right will choose which item they think is going to sink. And then they'll do the experiment, and the evidence of the experiment, they'll talk about whose statement was actually correct, whose name was written first, whose name was written second. Sand and water, counting numbers of scoops, filling the containers, introduce estimating and counting, half and full, how many do you see, the different sizes of measuring cups. For art, the stencils, and counting things by shapes and sizes, and also for math, using scales, using blenders, because blenders have it on there, different recipe books, recipes displayed on the wall. That's us.
That's awesome. Thank you. Y'all had great ideas also. And Cynthia, send that to me too. So we see that working with each other, that we can actually give some great ideas from one mind to the other. And our teachers can give all those great ideas too, you know, and when you get stumped and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do with math. I mean, these are fantastic ideas that just as a small little team of 14 people, y'all's minds have come up with these awesome ideas. So I think it's going to be great to get these participants together to let them be able to open up their minds too. So again, I suggest that you guys do take the planning sheet back to your classroom and maybe fill it out and let your co-teacher fill it out with you. Share it with your director and let them, now this is what I'm saying to teachers, I'm pretending, and use it for your classroom and for your planning. So, and this, I think also as TAs, I think this will help us too. If we could take this sheet in and say, you know, hey, I see that your one of your goals is to be able to work more on math, or these are the on your baseline, you didn't score as high in your math, you know, and this can help you plan, and then you could go over it with the director. Kathy's asking if we could compile a list of activities to help us as TAs. That, Kathy, I'm going to take those sheets and I'm going to copy them. I'm going to send them to everybody over email. So again, this is the time during the training that I would go over the 3 objectives again. I'm actually going to make a sheet that during the training you can just pull it up and put it on share your screen so they can actually see the objectives written out. And I didn't even think about doing that, but I really need to do that. So I will be doing that. And then I'll go over the 3 objectives again. The first one is participants will recognize how math and play and math talk affects quality care. Participants will identify different math concepts to intentionally enhance math knowledge. And the third objectives is participants will select ways to incorporate math into all centers and routines on a daily basis. So here is our time of asking if anybody has any questions so far. Okay, we are doing a great job because y'all don't have any questions. All right, so for our transfer of learning, I would like for you, and we call it the TOL in the CCR&R. So if you ever hear that again, it's a good way for us to measure what our participants has learned with the information that we've just given y'all today. So I'm going to ask that you type in the chat box, or you can say it out loud if you'd like to. Just raise your hand so we don't talk on top of each other. That if you can tell us one thing that you plan on using from this training in your classroom. So I guess we can say, name one thing that you plan on using with your providers. And you can either chat it or just raise your hand and I'll call on you and you can tell us. All right, Shelly.
I like the bubble sheet and planning form and having those side by side so they can just immediately pull from it, for the activities and the planning form.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. Letty.
This training. I like how the planning sheet is going to be easy for them to see it and implement it. Hopefully they can follow up with their plan.
And again, Letty, thank you for making that sheet for something else that I asked you to make, because it was really easy just to change it to the math planning. So thank you. Does anybody else want to say something out loud? I'm looking at the hands to see if there's any hands coming up.
So from your chat box, you've got the Math Throughout the Day handout from Allison. Cantina likes the type of math talk. Kathy plans to talk about using the social distance of 6 foot with all of it.
Oh, good idea.
Sheila likes the planning sheet. Linda likes the math planning. And that's your chat box.
All right, perfect. Yay. Does anybody else have anything else to say? If y'all are teachers in this training, we're still pretending like we're in training mode. All right. So does anybody have, now that we're in our training mode, that actually took us 11:48. We're at that time. So as a trainer, again, if you do not have all your Georgia PDS accounts, I would tell them you've got about 10 minutes to get me that account. And if you want to send out the evaluations, and just remind them that you're sending out evaluations. If you're sending out anything over email, just remind them to do that. If you're going to copy the chat box for everybody and send it to them, remind that you'll be doing that. And then also remind them that, or thank them for coming, obviously. Tell them again the name of the training, and that they are going to be receiving 2 hours of training for the Math Made Easy that will be applied by you to their Georgia PDS accounts. And that's all I got. So for y'all, I have all of this written out in a way that I understand it. If you don't understand it, whenever you do see it, I have not put it on SharePoint yet. I will put it on SharePoint, but I wanted to wait until I did this with y'all so I could make changes and stuff that y'all think that I need to make on it. And so once I make the changes, then I'll get it up on SharePoint. It'll be up on SharePoint sometime next week with the changes. All the handouts will be on there. So it'll be under the PL tab for the training tabs, and everything will be in one folder for it. So you'll have everything that you need. What I did to make it easier for me is I just typed out my instructions, and in the instructions that y'all are going to get on SharePoint, I actually put the handouts in the instructions, so you don't have to go from the instructions to the handout, from instructions to handout, because that got confusing to me. So you can just flip through this. And then throughout this training, I kept little sticky notes for my time, and I kept my phone beside me, and I wrote what time I said we're going into group, and then I wrote what time y'all were coming back. And that just made it easier for me and just kept it a little more on a roll for me. So I wasn't just going back and forth to a whole bunch of pages and confusing myself.
Just
yes, ma'am.
And this is one that I think I asked Miss Allison, when the trainings that you showed us before, it was a way you can actually put your timing on your PowerPoint, so the time will go on while you can use it. Do you know that way of putting it on the PowerPoint?
So Letty figured out how to put the time on the PowerPoint. We as a zone were trying desperately the other day on trying to figure out if we could do a timer on Zoom. We never found one, but if somebody finds one on Zoom, that would be fantastic. That would be something where you could actually, Cynthia did this on our meeting the other day, on our zone meeting. She found a website for the timer. So then she was able to share her screen and she was able to put the timer up on her screen. So that's how she did it. Cynthia, would you send that website out to everybody over email? Okay. Are there anything that you guys see that needs to be changed or was confusing or anything? I mean, I can't really add a whole lot to it because it's already been through decal, but there are some little changes that we couldn't make if y'all feel like we need to make some changes.
I was going to suggest if you feel like you're running ahead right there towards the end, you could relaunch the poll to see if their comfort level has changed.
That's fantastic. Can I do that? Let's do that. Okay,
yeah,
ready?
You should be able to relaunch it as many times as you want.
So I'm going to relaunch that poll, okay?
And that could also be a good part with the transfer and learn to see how much they've actually learned.
Right, a measurement of what they learned, kind of like an assessment.
Okay, that's excellent. So if we actually take that poll, and then we would get the results of that poll, and then that way I could say, well, at first we only had one person that was completely comfortable. We only had, I think, 2 people that were on a 9 level. So, okay, that sounds awesome. That's a good idea, Allison. Because like now we've got 5 people that are 10 instead of just 1. So we're doing good. Awesome. Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you for that. What else? Anything else, y'all?
The only thing that I might change, not really change, but suggest if I was doing the training is if I had a bunch of ITERS teachers, that I would try to group them together so that they would come up with ITERS ideas. I feel like everybody picked 3 and 4-year-olds because it's really easy with 3 and 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more challenging with the babies, and so they don't get a lot of the attention and love, I think.
So really what I need to do is just say, keep in mind when you're filling out your planning sheet, keep in mind the different age groups too. Or should I say group 1 and 2, you're going to do ITERS, and group 3 and 4, you're going to do ECHRS. Okay.
I think depending on your group too, like if you know the programs, but you
Right.
could set those breakout rooms before they get there and have all your ITERS teachers together. But if you don't, then you could just do it that way where you just assign the groups the age. And it might be nice for a preschool teacher to have to plan for a toddler just to see how different it could be. So
that's true. That's an excellent idea. Okay. Y'all should see how many notes I've got laying all over my desk right now.
Well, my question is, what is the setting or whatever? How do you decipher or break them up like that? With breakout rooms, I know you were putting the calculation, but then how would you actually make control groups? Is there a setting for that?
Yes, you can pick out your own breakout rooms. You have to go into the actual Zoom website whenever you change your settings. You can't go into the Zoom that's on your computer. But when you go into the website and you change all your settings for that, or I was actually having a problem with that, Janine, and Mandy and I were on that. And Mandy was telling me what she had and what I didn't have. So we were trying to work that out. but it was something in my settings. So I actually called Jenna, and Jenna changed my settings for me. And so I was able to go in there and pick the advanced settings. And that's one of the advanced settings that you can pick your own. It's kind of like when you do a poll. Before I started this training right here, I had to go ahead and put that poll in the training. So it was already there and waiting for me. You cannot make a poll during a training. It has to be before.
Did you save this as a template so that you would have it and not have to redo? You can save the meeting as a meeting template. You can still go back into it and do it. And then that way you won't have to reset up the polls, because that's what I did for the one that I taught the other night. I now have that as a template, so I don't have to redo the polls every time.
Okay. Yeah.
If you haven't downloaded the scheduler to your email, it is amazing because you can click the button and schedule a meeting. Right? Your Outlook. And my feedback that I was going to give.
You went out. I got a bad connection. Can you say that again? I'm sorry. I didn't hear anything you said.
I was talking about the plugin that you can download to your email from Zoom. Is really awesome because you can just click a button and schedule a meeting. And then you can send an email to any of your providers that you use Zoom with, and you do it all right there from your email. And it goes right on your calendar and it sends them the email, and it's pretty awesome. So there's an app you can download.
Okay, so I have to do what you did, Jessica, because like I don't have administrative rights on this computer like I did the other one. So I guess Jenna is gonna have to fix it where I can do stuff because I couldn't add or change anything.
Okay, and the reason being, Janine, is because when they first set up the Zoom accounts for us, they were set up a certain way. And then after a while, when we weren't using them anymore, and then they came back and said, we are going to use them, they sent us another email saying, you need to go in and you need to log into this, so it'll change your settings. But I did not go into it because I got comfortable with WebEx and you weren't here. So you may have just not gotten that email to log back into that. And that's what happened to me. I didn't log back into it. So then I did not have the advanced settings. And that's why you need to call Jenna and ask her to change it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So anything else that y'all can think of? Now I've got a training that I have to do this afternoon for my Sakers programs, and it was a pop-up. So that's why I sent it to everybody late. We had it planned, but then they were supposed to tell us if they wanted to do it, and they didn't. And then they said that they did, but y'all know how prime times are. So I am doing that training. I don't mind if you have people jump on, just tell people that I have to know their full name, not Letty. If your name is not really Letty, and you know, I need their full name that's going to be in there since I don't know them. And I need their Georgia PDS account. And then I actually need the real name that they work at, because a lot of people in Effingham, when I say I need the name, they tell me that they work for the Effingham County Y when they're really at Springfield or they're really at South Effingham or whatever. So I'm good with y'all, you know, letting people jump on, just make sure that they have that information. Another thing too is don't forget that science training for Monday. I would like to run it kind of like I did this one so I can get y'all's feedback on Monday. So I'm going to work on all this stuff. I will change stuff throughout the day. So if you find anything, just email me and say, hey, Jessica, change this if y'all can think of anything else. Thanks for being my guinea pigs. I don't know if it's still standing that we can't do the TFT quite yet. Does anybody know if we can put in new TFTs yet?
The last thing that we got from Kristen was if you were going to be teaching it, then you could submit it. So if anybody is planning on using this particular training with before, you know, September, then you would email Jessica and say, I need mine processed.
Yeah.
But if you're planning to use it, don't ask for it to be processed, and she'll catch everybody up on the backside.
Yes, I have a list of people right here that I actually have to do for even like the intentional training that that I have to wait on. So the last email we did get was Kristen said if within 30 days. So if you're planning this within 30 days, then I can TFT you on it. So if you are, just send me an email and I'll TFT you on it. I'll have to, send it to Kristen first and then get that okay. But other than that, thank you very much for being my guinea pig and for suffering through this with me today. I appreciate it.
It was great. It turned out really good.
This was great, Jessica. Thank you.
Training.
All right, and I'll see y'all Monday.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Jessica. Thank you.
You're welcome. See ya.
Yeah.
Shelley left us.
I think so. I think she had to go feed the baby.
I thought it went